Yes.
Can I ask a question? I'm Janaki Ram.
Yes, please.
It was a good exposition.
Thank you.
Of course, there are now people talk about mindfulness,
Yes.
yoga nidra, and meditation. All this also strengthen the intellect.
No, it doesn't. This meditation will not strengthen your intellect. There is a huge misunderstanding we have today in the world that meditation is a solution to your problem. No. After you have controlled your mind, you should go for meditation. What we are doing now is we are doing meditation to control the mind. It's like putting the cart before the horse. You cannot do that. You have to put the cart behind the horse only. Same way. This meditation, like you take meditation, who speaks about it, sir? Two places we see big discussions we have. One is Patanjali. In Patanjali's sutras, he talks about dhyana as which step? Just before samadhi. Right. Before that, how much of preparation he talks? And then you see that same thing being spoken in Bhagavad Gita also. See, in the Bhagavad Gita, he also talks about meditation. But how much of preparation he gives? Now, preparation not in the sense which seat you have to take, which posture you have to take. That's not the preparation he gives. Your mind should be in the meditative state. Now, we think meditation is also like weightlifting today. First, I go to gym. I can lift only 5 kg dumbbells. I exercise. Then what will happen? 10 kg dumbbells I can exercise. Then what can happen? 15 kg I can exercise. Then what will happen? 20 kg I can exercise. This you can do. Same thing is what we think here, meditation. First, I will practice meditation for 10 minutes. That practice will give me stamina and strength for me to practice meditation for 20 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. One day, what should happen, sir? 24/7, I will be meditating. Doesn't work. Okay. Then what is the craze about meditation today? I'm quite sure Ritambara will not agree with me. I don't know. Next time will they call me now? No. Because Ritambara will also be conducting meditation sessions to you people. You are not fit for it. Remember this. A mind which is disciplined already should be employed for meditation. Meditative mind meditates. By meditation, you cannot make the mind meditative. I repeat, meditative mind meditates. Through meditation, you cannot turn mind meditative. It will not happen. It has never happened and it will never happen. The problem is we started assuming meditation is also like weightlifting. And it looks very logical. That's the danger of it. It looks so logical for us. Intellect can be done, exercised only through this specific exercises of study and reflection. There is no other method. If there is any method, I would be the first person to jump into it. It doesn't work like this. So meditation will not help. What will help, sir? Only one. Study and reflection alone will build your intellect. Then that doesn't mean meditation should not be done, please. Now, Vedanta is not saying you should not meditate. Okay. You should meditate. When is the question? You are already in the meditative state. You walk meditatively. You sleep meditatively. How do you know? Don't practice all that, please. Right? Don't try to. That's what you see people. Actually, I have seen people, he says, I'm walking meditatively. It's like ghost walking. You'll go mad. Don't try that, please. For your welfare, I'm saying. I don't know Mr. Janigram is okay with it or not. But I say it's not, it will not
No,
help.
no, thank you very much. It clarified. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Ravinder.
Yeah.
So people go into depression, and the way psychiatrist deals is they will give medicine to alter the chemicals in the brain. But
Correct.
is depression the work of a mind, or is it the work of the brain?
It is work of the mind only, but it has affected the brain. So only psychiatrists can deal with it. You can't come to philosopher for that. See, philosopher is like this. See, there are two things required for your physical well-being. One is you require gymnasium. Another one is doctors, hospital. When you are sick, will you go to gym or you go to hospital? When you are sick, you should go to hospital. Don't go to gym. You see, that doesn't mean gymnasium is not useful. No, it is useful. For whom? When you are more or less okay. More or less okay physically, that is the time you go to gymnasium for you to make your body more stronger. But when you are having sickness physically, where do you go, sir? You don't go to gym instructor and ask him. You go to a doctor. Same way, when your mind is more or less okay, take to scriptural studies, spiritual, religious, whatever you call it, philosophy, whatever you want to call, you call. I don't care. Do this. But when you have a problem, don't go to a Swami. This is the blunder we make. In India, we make this mistake. In the West, they make that mistake. In the West, psychiatrists will talk about God. In India, Swami will talk about psychology. Both are not doing their job. It's like gym instructor. There may be one person who is a medical doctor, also a gym instructor. But if you find someone like that, you are very lucky. Right? Which is not easy. It's not available in the market. I have seen, I have searched in the market. There is nobody. There are only two types of people we have. One, people who can treat you when you are sick. Today, there is maximum number of sick people existing in the market. Therefore, that has a better value. I say, instead of going, when you have these problems, do not go and approach a spiritual institution. Go to a professional. Only they will help you. Just follow their instructions. Of course, in that profession, there are great doctors, mediocre doctors, and lousy doctors. That is there in every profession. Chartered accountants you take is there, lawyers is there, electricians are there, plumbers are there. In every field, any profession you take, there are. Go wherever. But when you have an electrical problem, don't call a plumber. Same way, depression, if a person has already, don't go to a spiritual person and ask him for advice. He will advise, but you can't follow. If you follow, it will damage you more. Okay.
Any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions to ask?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Swamiji, again, it comes back to meditative mind, to meditation, to controlling. So is that not a way to control your mind? You may be reading your scriptures or your philosophy or your spiritual books, but also a habit or a practice of just by meditating, I would mean just quiet, calming your mind or controlling your thoughts, which could be as a practice in.
Yes, you can try that, but you will not succeed. That's all my point is. You will never succeed. What
So
will happen is your mind is far, far more intelligent than your efforts. Remember this. I told you, mind is so cunning. What it does is, it takes a backdoor entry. The moment I am not, what the mind will tell is, you want me to be quiet for 15 minutes during meditation time? Yes, I will follow you. It will say. If you force the mind, see, remember, it's like a child. You see, when a child is there at home, you tell the child, I force you to sit for 10 minutes. You better sit for 10 minutes, then I will give you the candy. There are some child, who will say okay for it. But the moment you move out, what happens? The child will discipline itself. Obviously, it will appear to be disciplined. Haven't you seen in the house? The moment father comes inside the house, the child behaves. Okay, in current day, we have to give a reverse example. Once the mother enters the house, the child starts behaving as though highly disciplined. The moment the mother goes out, what they do? Same way, when you are practicing this without a proper preparation. Now, preparation in the sense, I'm not saying all the time you can do only studies. No. There are so many other disciplines are there. But in the context, I'm saying only take up that one discipline first and try, which is the challenging discipline, not an easy discipline. Taking up the scriptural things and studying and understanding, reflecting is not an easy thing, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing you have to do. Preparation demands a lot of other things to be done. It includes karma, it includes development of bhakti, it includes development of certain emotions, it includes the development of that vairagya, that not temptation with reference to the world. It has so many things. After all that preparations alone, the mind is ready to have this. Remember, go back and ask the basic question. What is meditation? Problem will get solved. What is meditation, sir? Meditation means single pointed concentration. Okay. Single pointed concentration is called meditation. When you are not able to have a general concentration capacity, how can you have a single pointed concentration? One fellow comes and asks, sir, you are asking me to concentrate on God. I don't like God. I don't know God. I said, okay, what do you like the most in your life? He says, coffee. I said, okay, now sit and meditate on coffee for 10 minutes. No other thought other than coffee should come. What happens? Initially, you will register. You are diverting, you are digressing, you are going out, happening all this. After about 1 month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months of practice, mind will not run. You will start believing what? Now the mind has come under my control. That is how the mind gives that delusive belief to you. It's delusory. Don't think that's a control. How do you know Ishwaran, you may ask me? How do we know that, sir? Very simple. If you are having the capacity to lift 15 kg weight, then you should be able to lift that 15 kg in any form. You ask that fellow, in the gym, I lift, 25 kg, 50 kg, I do the bench press, I do, he says. But I call that fellow and ask him to shift the cylinder. Hey, that I cannot lift. I can lift only dumbbells. Cylinder I cannot lift if that fellow says. Obviously, it means what? His claim that he is lifting 50 kg is false. You are able to have that focus here means you should have the capacity to focus anywhere. That's called concentration power.
So, So what is this breath then? What is the connection between to control your thoughts? You focus on your breath and
You cannot control. Don't try. If you try, it will take a backdoor entry. You can try. I don't mind. Because it's not my problem anyway. But if you are attempting, that's what everybody is attempting in the world. You see that now every year we see Buddha Purnima, there are 10,000 people sitting under the same Bodhi tree. Every year. Not a single Buddha has emerged out of it. Why? Same Bodhi tree, no? Same meditation practice only everybody is doing. But have you attained Buddhahood? Why? Therefore, what, sir? It has got nothing to do with the Bodhi tree. It has got nothing to do with that full moon. It has got nothing to do with all that. It is to do with what? That 6 years of struggle of Buddha. Most of us don't know that. We read Buddha only what? He saw one day, that night he left. After that, what, sir? Straight away, he sat under Bodhi tree, he got realization. This is what we see. Now, meditation is designed not for controlling the mind. Remember this. It's an abuse. It is like using a diamond as a paperweight. You may say, what's wrong, Ishwaran, in using that? I say, use it. The fact that you are using a diamond as a paperweight means what? You have not understood that it is a diamond. Meditation was not designed by these masters for controlling the mind. If that is the case, my question is, Patanjali should have referred that as a first step. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana. Why he gives all that first? Straight he should have told us what? Dhyana, then all those things you can do, no? Nowhere they have said that. First day itself, Buddha should have sat under the Bodhi tree. It will not happen. We are seeing, no. See, Ishwaran classes, how many people are attending? For the last 25 years, I have been teaching in Bangalore. I have only 20 people attending my class. 25 years of teaching, only 20 people are there. There are organizations who have 7 million as volunteers. Means they are following their instructions and things. Now, why is it that not a single? I am a total failure, you can say, in the field of spiritual, correct? 7 million people following that means what should have happened to the world today? Imagine, no, 7 million people are growing, have tremendous control over their mind. They don't fall for the temptations of the mind at all. They have complete suzerainty over mind. How should be the world now? This I am talking about one organization. There are 5-6 organizations I can think of who teach meditation. No transformation we see in the world. In fact, more stress, more strain, more problem only we are seeing in the world. Somewhere down the line, we should have got into that herd immunity we call, no? Isn't it? For coronavirus, they say, no, herd immunity. Same way, somewhere down the line, we should have got the herd immunity with reference to the mind's things. World should have become, if not utopia, somewhat better. Why it has not happened, sir? Because the entire system is wrong. Methodology is wrong. There are so many aspects to it, you know. It's a huge subject, you know. I hardly prefer to talk on that. That's why I never give the topic on meditation. You know, there's an Ananda Spa, you know, and I was there. You know, unfortunately, one day, last session, you know, they asked me to speak on that. You never spoke on meditation. You are the only speaker who never spoke. Why didn't you speak? I spoke. All the people went and protested the organization, stating, why are you teaching it? Cancel all that. There are 3 fellows who are teaching meditation there, lost their job. I profusely apologized. I said, I'm very sorry, man. So, I didn't want to take up your job, but it doesn't work. If it were to be working, if it is possible, I would be the first one to do that. It will not work. I don't know how comfortable you people are. Currently, I'm seeing, strange silence there.
No, it gives us a lot to think about, and actually the understanding. So yes, this is part of our, like you said, strengthening the banks. So yes, surely we are open to everything.
Build that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Kavi.
So with the strengthening of the banks and the intellect, I'm asking if that leads to dispassion. If you are dispassionate, how do you remain sensitive at the same time?
Only a dispassionate person can be sensitive. Passionate mind cannot be sensitive. It is insensitive. Passionate personality is insensitive. I am so passionate about my husband. You will not be sensitive to his demands, his requirements. You will be focusing only where? My passion. My passion, my passion, my passion. That's what the problem is. Sensitivity comes only with a dispassionate mind. A passionate mind cannot be sensitive. Why? Because it is so much focus on what? See, passionate in the sense what? A basic question you ask. What do you mean by passionate, sir? Passionate means I am engaging in this relationship for what I am getting out of it. That's called passion. I am passionate about work. Then keep working. Salary credit to my account. What will happen to all your passion for working? No. Salary should come to my. That's where your passion gets more. A passionate person is one who starts showing his commitment, his zeal, his efforts increases only based on what?
Emotion.
Possibility of the utility. Passionate means what, sir? Utility. What is the utility of that particular thing that I am transacting with? If there is utility, I am passionate. If there is no utility, I say what? I don't want this anymore. It's useless. You reject it. Passion will not be bothered about what it is. Passion is always what, sir? What it gives to me. Isn't it? How are you sensitive there? It's impossible. Mind can never become sensitive with passion. So for you to become more sensitive, what are you supposed to do, sir? Clip the passion away from your mind. When you clip that passion, your mind becomes more and more sensitive. In that sensitivity's expression is what we call as love. Passionate is what we call as attachment. Love comes only whose mind? Buddha can be sensitive. He is loving. Christ is loving, sensitive. At the same time, what is he, sir? Dispassionate. There's no passion for it. There's no passion in Buddha. There's no passion in Krishna. Krishna is not waiting for an opportunity to give a lecture. He has no passion. He is not interested in winning or losing. That is why he is able to fight properly. That passion means utility. Utility means what? You are not concerned about what it is. You are concerned about what it gives to you. So the value for everything is what it gives to you. The car which you bought with so much of oil, once once it starts giving problem, what do? You sell that, no? You are so passionate about it, no? Earlier, what had happened? It started giving me trouble. So what do? Sell it. I'm not saying, immediately don't take the other way and say, so Ishwaran, do you mean to say that with a problematic car, I have to live? No, that's not what I'm saying. Non-utilitarian attention is called sensitivity. That can come only when you are dispassionate. When you are passionate, your focus is on utility. And mind is what, sir? Utilitarian. It will deal with anything that has a utility value. Everything, even God, you will say what? Utility value only. What is the utility of God? Which God gives you more? That God you will pay attention more. That's all. Which person gives you more? You will pay more attention to that person. That's it. Wherever you go, passion means utility. Utilitarian mind will not bother about the thing. It's focused, preoccupied only with what I'm getting out of it. What I'm getting. What's a use to me? What's a use to me? Then it will say what? What's the use of this person to me? See, that is why dispassionate mind alone can be sensitive. Passionate mind cannot be sensitive. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. I think it's now we're 20 minutes over. Thank you so much, Suranji. Every time you leave us with some analogy, can we just mute everyone, please?
Jyoti, who wants to speak?
Yes.
Does she want to speak? No. Okay. Ishwaranji, we've taken a lot of your time. Thank you so much. But I just wanted to tell you that every time you leave us with some tremendous and such appealing analogies, the last time we talked about milk and curd, and this time you talked about the river and the bank. So there's, these things just stay in our minds. And we'll definitely have you over again. No question about that. Will be our privilege to have you again.
Certainly.
Thank you again so much for a very enlightening, and very eloquent thing on mind and intellect. And it was very, very clear to all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to tell everybody here that next week we have 2 programs. On Tuesday, 2nd June at 7 p.m., we have Dr. Vikram Adityan. He's our Ayurveda and health consultant. He'll be talking to us on virus, vitality, and the Vedas. So this is a very interesting topic because it deals with what we are presently undergoing. So we'd like you to, tune in at 7 o'clock on 2nd June, which is Tuesday. And then on Friday, 5th June at 7 p.m., we have Shri Krishnapani Kesi Raju, who will be telling us, talking to us on another subject, and the details of which we'll share with you very soon on the group chat. So thank you so much, everybody, for your presence and participation today from all of us at Ritambara. And thank you once again, Ishwaranji. We look forward to having you back with us very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.